Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth matters. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning 1 p.m. Central Time. A lot of you have said, Donna, I've missed the show. And you're watching from all over the country. It's 1 p.m. Central, so make sure you watch them. By the way, you can find us on the radio at icradio.media, and we are a brand new Fox News affiliate, so really proud of that. And thank you, Dave Manning, for making that happen. Definitely appreciate that. I knew Dave back from the day, and so I just got in contact with him. I said, hey, Dave, we'd like to be Fox News affiliates. He said, well, of course you do. So we had to set up, and it took 2 weeks to do it. So, Dave, thank you again so much. You can find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications, and Abundant Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Don't forget that wonderful podcast, The Newscasters Studio. It's thenewscasters.com. Definitely appreciate that opportunity as well. And every way we can get out there and share that information with you. By the way, I know you guys have lots and lots and lots of questions, so you can send your questions to Donna@DonnasEdge.com. That's Donna@DonnasEdge.com. Have Chuck and Mary Lynn Bailey with me, and they're from Alabama Fair Tax, and I'm all into it. I think Trump needs to go ahead and get this thing done, but we think we need to start with Alabama first.
Yes, ma'am.
That would be good.
That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, that would be good. But wherever it happens, it'll be good. It'll be wonderful.
I think it'll be like wildfire. Once one person gets into it, well, then everybody else is going to have to follow suit, because that's the first state that gets involved. The first one who does it is going to get most of the traffic. They're going to get most of the abundance, most of everything. So what's going on in the state of Alabama right now?
Well, we've been tracking down the lieutenant governor for a long time, and finally corralled him in a Zoom call and talked to him a little bit about this Alabama Economic Freedom Act. Mm-hmm. Now he and Mike Holmes sat next to each other in the House of Representatives when he was in there, so he knows of it, but he doesn't know about it. So what we talked about with him is the fine points about, you mainly in he's all for small business. He's got this small business outfit that
he's got
pulls them together, and you're involved in that to a degree, aren't you? Mm-hmm. Working with that.
Yeah.
And so we know that he's for small business, and so we are trying to convince him that this would be the best thing that would ever happen to them as far as taxation is concerned. And so he's still a little skeptical, and he had his deputy chief of staff get the rate study from us, and he's turned that over to the fiscal office down there, and they're working through her with me to clarify things in the bill. And for instance, when you do income tax all your life, and somebody comes along and says, I got a good deal where you don't have to do anything until you pay for stuff, it just trips them up. They don't know what they have to think, and they start thinking, oh, wait a minute. If we tax services, we're going to have to ask doctors and lawyers and all those people to pay this service tax. And I say, yeah, that's right, but there are particulars about that it's not going to be onerous on them. They'll have to pay anything that they any client that comes in and gets work done by them. That's a service for that client, so they'll pay a service fee. But if they're working for a big corporation on a big case, that's considered a business-to-business tax, so there won't be any tax there. All taxes are paid in the price of products and services that you and I buy at retail for our personal use every day. That's where all the taxes are paid. So when you get rid of all the paperwork and everything that goes along with collecting the income tax and all of the exemptions, deductions, and credits that they have for that, plus there are exemption, deductions, and credits for sales tax too. So all of that garbage goes away. And there's a single form that each guy fills out and sends in the tax.
It actually is a fair tax.
It's a fair tax.
Yeah. Getting into the weeds though on the doctor's services, when a patient goes to a doctor, if they have insurance, they've already paid the tax. It's not another tax on their service.
When they buy the insurance, they pay the tax.
That's right. So that's not something that's added on it it's not going to raise the cost of health care for patients. So.
Well, I have a comment, okay, because I've always put Mr. Ainsworth up there as being a pretty smart businessman. What does he really not understand about this? Because I would think he's a lot more savvy than I am, and I got it the first time around.
Let me, one comment that was made was, I mentioned that there would be no corporate taxes, which would be a real boon to bringing industry into the state.
Amen.
But that works for everybody, not just for the corporations. But his comment was, well, we have tax exemptions for corporations. Well, that's good, but they don't have tax exemptions for small business. So, it really is, it puts large business, big corporations on a different level from small businesses. And I don't think that's fair, personally.
Well, the other part of it is, Mr. Lieutenant Governor, they won't pay any taxes, so they don't need any credits and exemptions.
Well, that's the point.
What does he not understand?
None of them will be paying taxes, so there are no need for exemptions and deductions and exceptions.
Well, let me just say that I think the fact is that people cannot wrap their mind around simplicity, because the income tax is so convoluted. And I mean, there's a tax for one person that's not for another. It's a tax for one situation that's not for another. With the fair tax, it's one tax for all. It actually is a flat tax, which is what a lot of people have been wanting for a long time. It's a flat tax on new goods and services for everyone.
Well, take for instance, right now, I think it's a good thing because it's kind of one of the portions of the fair tax, and that's untaxed tips. Waitresses will.
That's a big deal right there.
Right. So Trump comes out and says, I'm going to get rid of taxes on tips. But what that does is, if you don't do the whole fair tax thing, it makes winners out of the people getting a tax and losers out of everybody else, because somewhere there's money being spent that's based on those tip taxes that they're getting. So it's going to have to come from somewhere else to cover that removal of the tip tax. So it's a good idea, and I think it's a good way to get people in the mindset of getting rid of these stupid taxes. But it also kind of delays the fair tax just a little longer if they do something like that.
The one thing I think to really simplify what the fair tax is, taxes collected is a pot of money. It comes from all different sources. With the fair tax, you just eliminate all of those sources and concentrate on new goods and services. It makes it so much simpler, and when you're paying taxes, and you can also figure out how much you're paying in taxes, because with the embedded taxes and all of the other different ways that you're taxed, I defy anyone to know how much tax they pay. I don't think it's possible.
Well, we've had a few of our listeners who have guessed, and a lot of them are up there pretty close to 80%.
Yeah.
When all is said and done, and I pretty much will believe that.
Yeah. So I think
it's indentured slavery is what it is. The income tax.
Is.
Yeah. We have the Understanding the Alabama Economic Freedom Act, which is the fair tax for Alabama. But if you read that, it actually describes what the fair tax is nationally, because we don't have a national sales tax. That's the thing that's eliminated with the Alabama fair tax. But with the federal fair tax, it eliminates Social Security and Medicare. That's paid in that pot of money that I described earlier. So all of the money that's coming in will still have the same amount of money. It just is a much simpler way, and it also collects it from everybody, and not just the people who have a job.
Here you go. You got this big pipe, and it's flowing water at a rate, and it breaks. Something happens down there. It's all messed up in the back. So you bring in a new pipe, you hook it up to that same spigot, and the same amount of money flows through there, the same amount of water flows through there, and the water still gets distributed like it was previously. Nothing else changes, just the tax collecting system.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the people who are possibly going to be running for governor in a couple of years. And I'm just going to tell you, the one who jumps on it is going to be the one who will actually be the next governor. And I have spoken to someone, I can't give the name, but I have spoken to someone I think he's going to be running for governor. And I have talked with him about that. He's pretty much all over it. So
Well, we know if John Merrill runs, he'll be for it because he signed the pledge to when he ran for. Let's see, he was running for senator at one time for the great state of Alabama, and he signed a pledge that he would support, promote, and vote for the fair tax if it came up to for a vote in the Senate.
I think all it takes is a businessman to know that the fair tax is what we need to do.
well, if you've lived your entire life serving as a politician, you won't get it because you're used to the kickbacks you're getting off of. I'm sorry, but it's the truth.
Right.
I'm just telling it like it is. You're used to getting those kickbacks right there. So you're not going to quote unquote get it, or you don't want to get it, is the way I'm looking at it.
Well, I think the next guy would be the lieutenant governor. I think that once he figures it out, I think he'll support it too. So that may be something he runs on. Mary Lynn doesn't agree with me, but
I don't think he will either.
It's going to take someone who really wants to be a politician, not someone who is a politician. Because
I agree with you, Mary. Yeah.
It's someone who wants to serve the people is the person who's going to do that. If big money for campaigns comes from businesses and different entities that want special favors. They want to pick winners and losers. The fair tax doesn't pick winners and losers, and that's why it's not something that they'll ever favor.
Let's talk about this for a few minutes. And that's where, the America I grew up in, it's beginning to not be that way so much, but the harder you work, the more successful you were. And that kind of gave you some ambition. To give you some ambition to get up off of your duff and going ahead and make it work. So, I mean, anybody can make it. I'm telling you, if I can, anybody can make it. All you got to do is just get on the horse and start riding it and go for it. That's all you have to do, really. You don't have to have any special abilities. You just do it. Got that from my grandmother. My grandmother used to say, some people work to get out of work. All you've got to do is just do it. That's all you got to do.
So
you often wonder if the guys that are crooks, if they put their minds to something legal, that they'd really be good at it.
Where you don't constantly have to be looking over your back. And I'm saying this to politicians who are constantly looking over their backs because they get into office having nothing. Give them a good couple of years. They'll have a lot. That speaks volumes to me.
Yeah. Well, and to take this tax thing a little further, I guess most people don't realize that right now, if you work overtime, and not so much in the state of Alabama, because next couple of years, I guess up to some dollar value, you don't have to pay income tax on your overtime. But under the fair tax, there's nothing called tax on overtime because there's no tax on overtime. That's all your money. And just think of the number of times you worked overtime, and you put in 10 or 12 or 14 hours extra, and you get done with it, and you just made enough to pay your tax. That's just
that is so true.
Wrong.
When Chuck was working, he whenever he worked overtime, I hated it because first of all he wasn't at home, and second of all it put us in another tax bracket. So we ended up, it often cost us money for him to work overtime.
You wind up owing them.
Right.
I mean, you're not coming out ahead to be ambitious when it's set up that way.
And that's the reason why it's set up that way, is to keep you from being overly ambitious.
I don't know whether that's the case. I think it's just piling one thing on top of another, and it's just
this time I'm on his side. I really believe it's the setup. I really do, to keep you from being so ambitious.
The income tax is based on Marxist Communist Manifesto.
Yeah,
that's another thing too. If you look at the Communist Manifesto, the income tax is one of the first things.
Number two.
Yeah, I believe public education is the first. But the thing that communists and socialists don't like is for you to have property. Right. They don't want you to own anything. They want you to be beholden to the government. And if you look at the income tax, the government owns the money. They touch the money before you ever see it. With the fair tax, you get the money and determine when you pay the taxes. And that is something that's a big deal. It really, if you believe in freedom, you cannot believe in anything but the fair tax.
And if you can say it differently, with the fair tax, you are able to take care of your family first, then the government.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about.
If the family's happy and the family is happy, they're thriving. I mean, they're going to work harder, and they're going to be able to help more often.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be able to give to charities. You know, you'll have an abundance. You'll be able to help.
Right.
And since you don't have income tax laws pointing you in the direction with this product or pointing you in the direction with that product, the free market determines what's being R&D'd and turned into products and services, and you'll get more of it for cheaper and better quality.
Yeah. The income tax is the carrot and the stick. And it's mainly used as a stick. Mm-hmm. It's, if you've ever been audited, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I've been audited, and actually, they owed me money. Yeah. Kind of like you said happened to you guys one time.
Exactly.
And I was tempted to say, okay, when you thought I owed you, you charged this overabundance of interest and penalties. Now, am I going to be able to charge you interest and penalties? No, it don't work that way.
No. That's yeah. And then they use scare tactics with us. We paid we let them have the extra money because we just gotten our first house. We were living paycheck to paycheck, and we had 3 children under 5. And it was something, I think they owed us $100, $120. And he said, well, we'll just call it even. And I was so glad to get out of that office. I was willing to pay the $100.
When they owe you, it's pay up now or go to jail. And when you owe them, oopsie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of reminds me of people who get divorces. I have friends who have divorces, and that's almost every single time. And I hate to say this because I'm a woman, but almost every single time the woman gets the man, and usually he goes, "It's worth it. I'm away from her." I mean, so the government is like that. They get you, and they know you're not going to go after them.
Yeah. So, but then we also had the experience of being targeted by the IRS when we were looking for our 501c3. It was which happened during the Tea Party era.
Yeah, the Lois Lerner era.
Yeah, yeah, and she never had to pay for that.
Oh, she's getting her retirement because she resigned as a result of it, and she's getting hundreds of thousands of dollars a year retirement.
Right, despite the fact that she went after people.
She actually changed the course of history in the United States because she screwed up all the tea parties by doing that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll never forget when I was at the Tea Party. Living in Charlotte, North Carolina. I was a member of the Tea Party. And I'll never forget that day. Phil called and he said, "You need to get away from there." And I said, "What for?" And he said, "Well, I'm looking at the news right now. They're having to carry people off. Do you want to be on the news? Because I know they'll have to carry you off." And I said, "There's nothing happening here. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know where they were getting this footage, but it was on local news as they were having to carry us all off." And I had to send him pictures to let him say, no, that's
Here
not.
we are.
Yeah. But it's, if you look at what's happening these days, if you had, the Tea Party would have been enemy number one. It would have been a terrorist organization. Oh. And something I learned, this is really scary to me, that anything that the Department of Justice calls a terrorist or the FBI considers a terrorist organization, they do not have habeas corpus, which means they can put you in jail without ever charging you for anything.
That's the result of the Patriot Act.
Right, it is. And habeas corpus is part of our Constitution, and yet that for some reason there are special rules.
They just blew it off.
Yeah. So that's something that needs to be looked at too. But we're working on the fair tax right now. So.
Well, we have some questions, and one is from Toni, Toni. So I'm assuming this is a female. So she made the comment also about what do people not see and don't quite understand it. And so she wants to know, in your opinion, why would a politician be against it? I think we all know why, but why would a politician be against the fair tax?
Yeah, it's well, it is a paradigm change, which means it's it's a different way of looking at taxes, and a lot of times we hear politicians say, "Well, that's just too big a row to hoe." We can't
Why?
address that. I don't know. I don't know. In fact,
I
Well, that's
know.
another thing too. You got
I know you're
lobby.
taking some money away from their money.
Yeah,
You're taking
you got
money away. Just like
you got
our old friend Ann Eubank says, follow the money.
yeah,
yeah.
you got lobbyists on the pro and con side of the tax business, and so these guys are getting hit from both sides, and so that's another thing. And then um, the fact that they can use it to pound you over the head with.
Well,
That's
yeah,
one of the big
as an
things.
example, when we were talking to the lieutenant governor, I said, for a penny more, fair tax, we could have property taxes also paid for. That's just another pot of money that's distributed, and we know how to distribute it. And I said, and with that, you would no longer have to rent your house from the government.
Mm-hmm.
And he was totally taken up. He said, "You don't rent your house from the government." And
Yeah,
I said,
you do too. He should know that. He should know that.
You can own your house outright. You can own all of your land, mortgage free.
Like it says in the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, but you still are renting, and you will rent forever as long as you have property taxes. Now,
If you don't pay your taxes, or if you live somewhere where there's home association fees, and you don't pay that, you've lost your house. I don't care if you have your house paid for $20,000 a head. You're still going to be, it can still be taken away from you.
Yeah,
exactly. So that's another thing, but that was something he said, well, we won't look into that now because that's too big. No, I honestly don't know how it's too big, because if you just have the concept of this is just a pot of money that is distributed to pay, that the government uses to pay for what it pays for, and how you collect it is totally removed from how it's spent. So
see the way it works out is you look at the amount of money that's spent on new goods and services in the state of Alabama, and our GDP is up around $230 billion. And so you take a penny times 200 and whatever $billion, that's a lot of money. Believe it or not.
It is a lot of money. And let me mention this, because I've been in sales before. I worked with GTE Corporation, so I handled their government corporate accounts. And so I was paid a salary, and then I was also paid commission. I had a quota I had to reach, and I was paid actually more in commissions than I made in my salary. And it reminds me of the politicians, where the salary that we vote them in, they make $180,000 or whatever. That's just the salary. The commissions
whatever they can get.
Come in. Yeah.
Right.
Commissions are whatever they can get on the side.
And there's a lot of latitude. I didn't realize how much latitude there was in how the money that politicians get from different sources, how much of that they can actually just spend however they want to.
We see it all the time. They give it to schools and fire chiefs and all that kind of stuff, but where else are they giving it?
Yeah, I have been kind of intrigued by this Bonnie Willis thing that's going on in Atlanta, and she had gotten a grant that was supposed to be spent on underprivileged children in Alabama. I mean, in Georgia, in Fulton County, and instead, a lot of these people were coming from different states, people who had money who.
This is some kind of camp thing that they were doing during the summer.
I don't know all the particulars on that, but she took the money, did not spend it the way it was supposed to be spent, and she has quite an attitude. But she basically, I think that's her money.
What it turned out to be is friends of hers in high places around Atlanta had relatives in Indiana, Illinois, New York, places like that, and they were bringing their kids in and putting them in these camps paid for by the taxpayers of Georgia.
I think some of them were even out of the country.
And some of them were out of the country.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make you, as a citizen of the United States, mad. That doesn't upset you in any way. I mean,
it's
kind of upsetting to me.
It should make them horribly angry.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it does me. When I see the waste, that's how I got it. That's how I got fair tax. That's how I
Yeah.
got it. When
Yeah.
I know they spend it on stupid stuff, $200 hammers, stuff like that. I mean, okay, a $200 hammer, I can go to Lowe's and get one for if I get one with all the bells and whistles to it, like the best hammer on earth, $20 maybe. But it's $200. Common sense will tell you that money's filtering to something else. It can't possibly be a $20 hammer. I mean,
Yeah.
that doesn't make
Well,
any
I'll have to. I remember I used to hear about the $900 toilet seat for the C-130.
yeah. Yeah.
But
Some
you have
toilet
to,
seat.
you have to understand in that case, there are a whole bunch of people writing specifications, and the specifications keep getting blown up. And when you get to the end, the guy says, I can build that to that specification, but it's going to cost you $900.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason why those things cost like that. It needs to be in that arena. They need to go back and go through all those specifications and see what kind of stuff they can ream out of them to get the cost of these airplanes and everything down. But that's a lot of times that's what it is when you hear the $200 hammer or the $900 seat. I'm not saying it's a great thing to do, but I'm saying that that's the reason why it's caused. And that's the other side. That's the appropriation side. They need to go fix that. We're trying to make sure they have enough money to run the government.
I'll have to tell you, one of my favorite movies of all time is Space Cowboys. I love this movie. I mean, and so they're getting on the rocket, and then one of the guys looks at the other one and says, "Just think, this went to the lowest bidder." And I'm like, I got what he meant by that. Yeah.
You see, that was Tommy Lee Jones and Clint Eastwood, right? Was that Clint Eastwood?
Yeah, Clint Eastwood was in there.
Yeah.
Donald Sutherland. I like Donald Sutherland. Couldn't see anything,
Yeah.
but he had the whole task memorized. I mean, he had the chart memorized, and there he was, just couldn't see anything. And so, remember, I got it. DVD of it to go with it like that. I love movies like that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what's not to get. I mean, we're all bad.
Let me throw one other thing into it, because one of the things that was kind of interesting to me was that when you collect all of the sales taxes in the state and divide them up and make sure every municipality gets the amount that they equal to what they made last year. Yeah. We actually got the amount from Dale Strong when he was county commission for the county. I guess it was county and city. And it's going to be less than 1%. So with the state tax being 6.5%, if you add it'll be less than 7% sales tax. Right now, the sales tax in Huntsville is 9%.
Mm-hmm.
So because everyone
on top of the income tax that you're having to pay.
Right, and because
the corporate tax that's having to be paid,
but because everyone is paying it, it's makes it smaller. If you just right now there are only in the country, I believe there are about less than 160 million people who are wage earners.
I checked, and it was in 2023 it was only 153 million.
Yeah, you can't really, the COVID time, I think it's a little skewed, but a lot of the people that are working now are working 2 jobs. So they're counting.
But the funny thing is, the COVID year 2020 and 2021, they collected more taxes because the government was throwing money on top of everything.
Yeah. Well, that's another situation. Yeah. But the thing about it is, there are only about 160 million,
right.
Or even if you say 200 million, if you consider that there are 450 million people in the country, not necessarily citizens, but in the country
at any given time.
Yeah. Less than half of the people are paying the taxes. And with the fair tax, everyone pays it. Everyone who purchases new goods or services pays the tax, and that reduces
that's income, Social Security, Medicare, and old age benefits, all that stuff.
All of that, yeah. It collects the same pot of money that was being paid out now, paid out in the same way. It does nothing to affect spending, but it collects the money in a much more efficient and fair way.
We all want accountability. I want accountability. I own a business. I want to know why a dime was spent. I mean, I want to know why. And because, okay, this is one thing that grinds me. Okay, so sometimes you get these charges, like you think you want like an app or something, and they're supposed to give it to you free for 2 months or whatever. And it takes you forever to stop. So I don't even do that anymore because it takes you forever to stop it.
Right.
I will stay on the phone for 2 hours. I'm that type. I will stay on the phone because it's just the matter of the thing. I will stay on the phone for 2 hours to get $4.95 taken off of my credit card.
I agree with you.
Well, you have to, because
I will do that.
That's your stand against it. That's your stand against it.
Yeah, that's my stand. I got to stand some way, and that's it. Guys, we've got to go into a commercial break. We'll be right back in just a few minutes.
The Hatter Cafe and Country Inn is nestled in the northeast corner of Alabama the Beautiful in the delightful town of Mentone. We're located on top of scenic Lookout Mountain near Little River and DeSoto State Park and located only 5 minutes from shopping and restaurants. There is also a nearby community walking path and golf course. We welcome everyone through the doors, and we are committed to outstanding service for all guests. At the Hatter Cafe and Country Inn, we invite people from all walks of life to come and get away from it all, enjoy the open spaces, treetop views, fresh, clean air, and experience Southern hospitality at its finest. We look forward to hosting you. To reserve a special event, or if you would love a special getaway at the Country Inn, you can call us at 256-634-2018.
Are you ready?
We all wonder what tomorrow will bring, but the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, but today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer
yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.
Donna's Designs offers a line of handmade memorial, wedding, and keepsake jewelry that launched back in 1970. I'm a self-trained jewelry designer, and I will work closely with you to create unique designs you can love and treasure for years to come. Whether that be flowers that were used in a funeral arrangement or stones you found on the beach at a memorable trip, call me at 256-659-4319, and let's think of the possibilities. Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you.
Good afternoon. We're back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth matters, even if it hurts. Ouch. So thank you for sending questions. By the way, you can send an email to Donna at donnasedge.com. Donna at donnasedge.com. I don't know. I think there's a lot of us out there in this country that would just like to hear the truth, even if it does hurt, because we're seeing so many, I'm just going to say, stupid things. And it all circles around to our government. I don't want to be anti-government or anything like that, but I want it to be run like I run my business. And which is, maybe I'm not the best business person in the whole wide world, but I know every penny that's spent. And I want it to be held accountable. I absolutely do. We have Chuck and Mary Lynn Bailey with us, and they're from Alabama Fair Tax. And so we're talking about I wanted to mention this question. By the way, you want to send questions? Donna at donnasedge.com, and I'll make sure I get those out there for you. So Nick had a good question, and he is the manager of a grocery store, has a hard time keeping employees. Now, he has some who've been with him for years, but then he says it's like you would just hire people now. And you wonder if they go to lunch, will they come back? So he said, we're in that kind of a situation right now. So he's been thinking about fair tax, and he's the winner of the book, by the way. And so, because he's been watching the show for years, and he's been on the show a few times. And so Nick said, I want to know, do you think this might make people a little more ambitious, because the COVID years kind of took some ambition away?
Yeah,
I think it could.
It could in this degree, because they would not be at the state level. They wouldn't have to pay any income tax to the state of Alabama, and anything that was taken out of their check as far as taxes were concerned would go away, and they'd have 6.5% more money to spend out of their paycheck, plus whatever the local tax is that won't be taken out until they buy something. So you have your whole paycheck. That makes the value of your dollar go up. And then you decide when you're going to buy something new or pay for a service, and you know how much tax you're going to pay by the price of the thing. So, and the same thing at the federal, you'll be able to determine beforehand how much tax you're going to pay for something, and decide whether you want to buy that thing, or maybe save your money a little longer and collect more interest on it, which is going to be to your advantage, because banks will be able to give you more interest, since they don't have to do income tax anymore either.
I'm not sure I agree with that. And the reason is, what he said is true. I agree with what he said.
The interest rates and all that stuff go down.
As far as young people go, people who are just entering the workforce, that has been something I've thought about for a long time. There's not a lot of personal responsibility in this country, and I don't know where it went away. But I've heard stories about parents going to job interviews with their children. You've got.
I can't believe that. I would have never had my parents go on a job interview with me. Never.
Yeah, but the thing about it is, children now don't really have any responsibilities, or a lot of them don't. And that's not fair to say all of them, but a lot don't. And so, as far as people working, there's something that needs to be done about that, and I really don't know where you go with that, and I don't think the tax situation, income tax, or any of that's going to affect it. It's something that
the fact that I have more money to spend will be the effect it has.
Yeah, but to add to that about kids these days, I'll have to tell you, there is some hope. The more people take their kids out of public schools, because this is what I'm noticing. The kids I have met who are homeschooled, or they're going to a private Christian school, those kids are sharp as tacks. They work, and I haven't met any kid from a cowboy church. I'm just telling you, meet any of them. Those kids are hard workers. I can't believe it. I mean, it's like every time I go to a cowboy church, and we go to one up in Woodville, not too far from y'all. And so when you go there, you're going to see a different set of kids. It's how they're brought up. Even if the parents don't do it, it's having the influence of working.
What the fair tax will do for you is that it removes all the negative stuff you get off the income tax, and people will start seeing the value of work and that sort of thing. And it's got to turn us around, because otherwise we're really in deep trouble.
We're doomed. We are doomed. There was another question that was brought by
Donna. One other thing, though, on that, one thing it might do, and this is a possibility, I suppose, is that with the fair tax, you may not have to have both couples, both family, the mother and the father, both working as much or at all. I mean, the mother might be able to stay home with the children.
How many families do you know now where two people work, where one pays the tax and the other one makes the living?
So that might affect it, where you might have more responsibility.
Family friendly.
Yeah, it is. That. So that's So I don't know that that's an answer, but it's a possibility, I suppose. But that is a problem. It's a real problem.
When you analyze it, if you get a piece of paper and just write down, families get together and do this. I'm going to challenge you, and then let me know. Send an email, let me know how this works out. Donna@donnasedge.com. If you as a couple will sit down at the table, don't eat anything, just have a piece of paper, I bet you'll be better off one spouse working
Yeah.
I bet you are. We've been fed that lie for a very, very long time. Because when you consider this, because I remember a long time ago, we only had one car growing up. We
Yeah.
seemed to be okay with one car because mother didn't work back in the day.
Mhm.
And so you didn't need that. You didn't need the extra insurance. You didn't need the extra gas mileage. Mother, when she started to work, had to start wearing fancy clothes. So that
Mhm.
cost more.
Right.
Okay. So, I mean, when you start thinking about and eating lunch out every day, all those things cost. I bet you can survive better, mom staying at home and teaching the kids homeschooling.
Well, I can answer that because
I'm meeting
that was
homeschoolers seem to be pretty well off.
yeah, but that was a decision that we made. I stayed home with the children, and Chuck worked, and we did not have as many vacations. We didn't go to Disney World every year, and we didn't.
We didn't buy a boat. We didn't buy a motorcycle.
No,
we didn't buy a sports car.
We lived within our means, but we were able to. We were able to take care of our children. We didn't have to farm them out to someone else. We raised our children, and that's
the
I can
best
see it now.
thing.
I can see it now. The people watching it say, "Well, those are a couple of dull people I've ever seen."
I don't think so. When you can afford to send your kids to college and only one spouse works, I think that's pretty good. I really do. No college debt. And I just think you need the parents.
They paid their own way.
Yeah, our children paid their own way through college, and they did not get loans.
My son did too.
So it's a possibility. It's just something. It's a different way of looking at things, and but if you do, like you said, just get out the pencil and paper and just determine how much it is you spend on all the different categories, and if you can add that to your budget every month, could you not just afford to have your spouse stay at home?
Well, I mean, I'm going every day to get a Starbucks. I'm not, but I'm just saying if I were, I would be going every day to get a Starbucks. That's incredibly stupid.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. If you're doing that every single day,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, add that up.
Yeah.
And then also you're paying extra on medications because you got a headache every day because you hate your boss. I mean, and there's so much tenseness. And I'll have to tell you what, if mother had stayed at home and not worked, I think our family would probably still be together.
Yeah.
I just think it was I know I sound terribly old fashioned, but I can't help it. It's out there. It speaks to you. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's just plain out old human nature.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just taking all that because I know a lot of stay-at-home moms who are teaching their kids. And I'm just seeing happier families. I'm seeing moms not depressed all the time. I'm just seeing a whole lot of happy. And I just think it's awesome that they've got it together. They know how to make it work.
All right. When Mary Lynn interrupted you a while ago, you said there was another question.
Yeah, there is. And this one that's just your show. It's not mine. And our folks who send in questions.
Whoa.
I love it.
Good.
Yeah. Now, a lot of it's about prebate, and we'd still need to talk about that. We've got a lot of new folks out there.
Mm-hmm.
So we had, Nick sent his question in. We had a lot of good ones. Some of them are the same thing. Let me see if I can find something that doesn't have a prebate in it. And there was one. I'm looking at a lot of questions. Well, why don't you guys go ahead and start talking about the prebate?
Yeah, while you're looking, the prebate is actually just a refund of taxes up to the poverty level that you receive 1/12 of it every month. So you never pay taxes up to the poverty level for your family situation. It has nothing to do with how much money you have or how much money you've made or how much money you make each month. It has to do with the number of people in your family and number of dependents you have. So a single person, I never can remember the amounts, but a single person can make over $1,000 a month, and that is untaxed. So if that single person can eat $1,000 worth of groceries a month, he's not paying taxes on groceries. So
and the marriage penalty is thrown out too because a couple gets twice that much, so they get about $2,400 a month tax free. And then if they've got kids, you throw in another $800 a piece, and that gets you up to over $3,000 that you do not pay in tax over a year based on the fair tax.
Right, and that money is not specified for any. If you can take that money comes each month regardless. But if you can go a whole month without spending money on new goods and services, then
It's yours.
the money is yours. You can put it in your savings account or checking account, or you buy something with it if you want to. So
I've
that's
got
what the rebate is.
Okay, so Jerome had a question. He said that he listened to the show when you were on a few months ago, and I hadn't something that stuck with him. And you had said you don't really own your property. And he remembered what I said about us buying our inheritance, because Phil and I got a piece of paper and said if we buy it, we're actually going to be coming to the better.
Right.
And we are, because now the property is valued much more, like 3 times more than what it was that we gave for it at that particular time. So his question was this: what do you think fair tax would do for property values? Do you think it would make them increase or get lower?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it is. That I think
it just depends on the. It's going to
depends on who's president, I say.
Yeah, it depends on. It depends on what the demand is for housing and that sort of thing. What the demand is for cars, it'll depend on that. But with paying the tax when you buy new goods and services, I'm thinking that the economy is going to grow and people will be able to buy bigger houses and bigger cars. And
well, you'll have more money in your hands.
You'll have more money in your hands.
You get the money before the government does.
So it's going to be to the positive for you.
Right. If you consider how much you pay into Social Security, Medicare each year, and if that money is spread around to the whole population, that's a lot of money that you're paying. So that would be something that you would have to put down on a house. So,
well, it looks like our neighbor has decided to cut the grass right next door to our window.
Oh, I can't even hear it. I'm not hearing it.
Okay, well, good. Yeah.
Maybe we're squelching it out.
I that's a good question, and I don't know the answer. But I have never. I don't think I've ever yet seen anything that the fair tax didn't make better. So, but I'm not going to put.
I think the deal is the fact of the matter is the interest rates will go down because you'll get rid of a lot of the paperwork and everything that goes into buying a house, and you'll not be paying everybody else's income taxes and tax compliance and everything on all the pieces and parts that make up a house or a car. So the price of that thing's going to go down. Those things are going to go down. So when you buy something, you'll pay the fair tax on it, and you'll be done with it.
Yeah.
And if it's a house that's already been on the market and sold, and somebody's selling you their house, there are no federal taxes, or there'll be no federal or state taxes on
that.
Brent has an observation, and he said that when Trump gets in, as president, he thinks Trump would go for it. And so he wanted to know, in your opinion, do you think you would see a very fast turnaround with the national deficit? Because, man, we are in trouble. We got a lot of money.
We depend on folks like Stephen Moore, because he and Art Laffer and several other folks.
Actually, Alan Greenspan, too, back in the 90s.
All those guys, Kotlikoff and Brown University, all these guys did economic studies. Jorgensen, he's the guy that came up with here's how much tax is paid on different kinds of things, like leather is about 16%, and houses and cars about 25-30%. So all of those guys came together, and they came up with this. They put together things that were finally defined out to be the fair tax. And so, what was the question again?
So what do you think this will do to the national deficit? How fast do you think that turnaround would be?
And the studies they did culminated in, they looked at what would happen if you actually applied the fair tax to the U.S. economy. And the National Retail Association doesn't like the fair tax because they'll lose their mortgage interest deduction, which means that they don't understand, or they have a job that they're trying to keep, and they came up with 3.5% to 4%, and then we had other
increase of the
GDP the first year, and then others came up with as much as 24% increase in GDP for the first year, but they kind of said, well, those guys are all in between is about 10 to 11%, which is more reasonable. So the growth is going to be that like 10 or 12% for the first year. And when asked, when he thought that the GDP and everything would start going up, Greenspan said it'll be about 4 months.
It would go up that quickly.
It'll go up that quickly.
Yeah. The thing is,
Steve Moore said it's like the economy be like a rocket fuel, you know.
The thing is, though, the same thing happened. If you remember, I don't know if you remember the Reagan years, but we do.
Yeah, I do.
The amount of money coming in to the general fund was huge.
Huge Reagan fan.
Yeah, there you go. Well, it was huge, but the problem is, as soon as the government saw that money, they found a way to spend it.
Yeah.
So it's going to the income, the money. It could possibly be a huge boon, but it's going to depend on the people we have in office. And if we have people to be partisan, if we have Democrats in office, they know how to spend money and buy favors. And
some Republicans do too.
Yeah, that's true. That was unfair of me. But the fact is that in order to stay in office, politicians have to have campaign funds, and that they get those campaign funds by buying favors or by paying favors.
Yeah, lobbyists. So we're going to. Another thing that most people don't realize is that about 15 to 20,000 tax lobbyists go away when the fair tax comes in nationally.
For that.
And you'll have the same kind of thing at the state level. All the tax lobbyists will go away. They won't have a job until they go find something else to lobby.
Yeah, one thing though too for the fair tax is that right now politicians love to say we're not going to tax you. In fact, I remember Joe Biden said he wasn't going to tax anybody under 400,000. I'm sorry, 400,000. Well, that went by very quickly. Yeah,
when he opens his mouth, he's lying.
Well, the middle class pays the taxes. So, but if there's no one to hide behind the tree, then everyone is going to pay that tax, not just the middle class. It's going to be everyone. So when Obama has his birthday party and buys food, he's going to pay the tax. So if you go and buy for your family and you'll pay a certain amount, you'll pay this, it'll be the same tax, but what it'll do is spread it out more evenly. Mm-hmm. And so it's
what's another way to look at it is if you look to get really technical, our vice president likes Venn diagrams, but this is not a Venn diagram. If you look at probability and distribution, is strictly just a little curve, and it's shaped like a bell. It goes up and comes back down. And you look at the left-hand side, and it says 1%, 10%, 20%, 50%, 70%, on up, up to the lower edge, you get the 100%. And it just shows you that all those people in the middle, from about 25% to 75%, that's the middle class. Mm-hmm. And they're the people who are paying the tax.
That's where the money is.
Not these people, not these much fewer people over here called rich folks or big corporations. Mm-hmm. The crux of the matter is that we middle class dudes, we're not middle class. We're middle income, I'd say. We're the ones that pay the tax, not anybody, not those other guys.
It's true. Right. It's absolutely true.
And the fair tax captures everybody. Mm-hmm. Since there are no exclusions, exemptions, deductions, whatever you want to call them.
They're throwing money around in New York to the illegal aliens. I'm sorry, that wasn't very politically correct.
That doesn't, I don't care. That's not right. That's just not
newcomers. Right. The newcomers. Yeah, they're giving the newcomers all kinds of money.
Oh, so then I'm going to go to the border and I'm going to come through and say I'm a newcomer then.
Right, exactly. But they're getting all kinds of money that they do not in any way pay taxes. But with the fair tax, every time they spend that money on new goods and services, they will pay the tax. So it collects money from everyone, not just the not just the people that are currently employed. Okay. And some people are employed by, have several jobs in order to make it make it work.
As a matter of fact, most of the new jobs they talk about having these days are people working 2 and 3 jobs now.
Of course they are. That makes common sense. I mean, that's exactly true. We've got less than 2 minutes left in this segment. I think this is a good one. This comes from Whitney. All the questions are good. Keep sending them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
What if federal doesn't do this, but the states do? What's the outcome?
They will probably follow suit in the short term, because they will see, like if you have Alabama, Georgia, and Nebraska, the 3 states that are working on this now, if they come up with a viable system and they start seeing all of the, they talk about Florida getting all this flow of people in industry and everything.
Yeah.
It's going to really flow into those 3 states if they get the fair tax, and the feds won't be able to overlook that.
I think once people, the main problem we have right now is education. There are not enough people who understand the fair tax. They're used to the income tax, and they have their way of working with the income tax. Once everyone is in educated and understands the fair tax, and that will happen when several states have it, then it'll be a demand. That we. I mean, there's so many things that people demand that are so frivolous that we get because the voices are louder. And once people understand the fair tax and their voices get loud, and that's what we need, is to have loud voices wherever. We've got to let our politicians know, start demanding it. We don't have to go out in the street and tear down statues, but we do have to make ourselves known.
You got to get on the telephone and buzz your congressman,
exactly,
senators,
and do it once a week or once a month or every day if you've got the time. But,
okay, Alabama and Auburn fans, let me say something to you. I know you get loud at ball games. I know you do. I mean, I'm one. Phil is one. Okay, we're on opposing teams. So pretend it is the end of life the way you know it. If we keep going down this road we're on right now, we're going to be in a communist country. It's just so obvious. If you really want things to turn around, you need to start touting this. And I would not vote for anybody who doesn't get it up here, because that means they either don't want to or they don't have enough brains to figure it out. So it's one of the two.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you really want to see things turn around and you want more of your money, you don't want one of your kids to have to buy the inheritance. This is ridiculous that your kids are having to argue the point. Do I need to buy the inheritance? I mean, this is nuts, guys. We
are getting to the point where you will own nothing and be happy. Although the be happy part, I question.
Yeah,
but
that's a key point. There are no inheritance tax under the fair tax, so
right.
You don't have a problem.
That is a very big, because there's a lot of us baby boomers now. We got to be thinking about these things.
I'll tell you what, Donna, we get calls and emails and messages, and our son does too, because he's a junior, wanting to buy our property.
Oh, we do too.
There is something going on there.
Something's working. It's on every other commercial, and I don't believe the hacks that are on these commercials. They don't look like business people to me. I think they're being paid to do this. There's a greater force out there. We need to be watching. Something's up.
Yeah, I mean, we've come to the point where most farmland is owned by agribusiness or by big property owners.
The largest being Bill Gates.
Yeah, but when the time comes that we have big property owners, Vanguard and BlackRock, if they own all the property, then they will control. They will be in control.
We will be slaves.
And you will own nothing and be happy. I mean, it will be all this.
We're going to be all this
Huxley.
How can folks get more information about fair tax?
Yeah, they can go to for the national bill, fairtax.org, and for our bill, it's alfairtax.org.
Yeah, and on our website, we have Understanding the Alabama Economic Freedom Act. It's one page with the prebate on the back, but the first page describes what the fair tax is, and if you can extrapolate from that exactly what it would be at the state level and at the federal level.
Okay, folks, we got to go, but you guys hang around. I got to get you set up for next month. Thank you guys so much for watching. You are the reason we do this. Absolutely. Keep sending emails, Donna@donnasedge.com. Makes me feel good. It really does. Thank you so much.